Good morning, gamers. Today's gonna be a very laid-back and cozy video of me going through every killer in Dead by Daylight, giving a very brief explanation of their art design, character design, sound design, all of that, and ranking them on a tier list based on that. We're not going to be taking the in-game cosmetics or skins in account, and we're also not going to be taking in their, like, a gameplay into the game. Well, their strength in the gameplay, I suppose, how good they are. This isn't your tier list of who is the strongest killer in the game to play, but who is designed the best. So, this video, I imagine, is going to be quite long. So I hope you have something to do while you listen to this in the background, or you have something to drink, because if you're actually going to be looking at your screen the entire time, I commend you quite a lot. So let's start off with the most important killer in Dead by Daylight, but not really, the Trapper. I, for all intensive purposes, put Trapper at the middle tier. The Trapper is the mascot of Dead by Daylight, so his design is honestly quite simplified. Normally I would put him kinda low, but I think mid-tier is fair because as your mascot character, it being simple and easily recognizable is actually quite good. If we look at some images of the Trapper here, we can see that he's honestly just a guy in overalls with a mask, but he does have some interesting things about him, like the metal sticking out of his arms, and that's actually about it. This metal doesn't really tell us much about the Trapper, except that he might fucking suck at putting down his traps and get them stuck in his arm a lot, but that doesn't make sense because that would be in the legs. Although, it does visually just look cool, and adds details to an otherwise bland design. His outfit is a basic set of overalls and a wooden mask that is actually quite interesting. I think he has a very cool looking mask. Trapper is the Dead by Daylight's unlicensed version of Jason Voorhees as he was on a release. And most release killers have a counterpart to actual horror media, much like the next one coming up. So, while Trapper's design is very basic and very simple, it is still very appealing in a way that makes sense to why it is simple. He's the mascot, you need to be able to look at him and know. So, I put him in the mid-tier, because that's kind of where he just belongs to me. Next up is Hillbilly. Hillbilly is, I think, the most poorly designed killer in the game. The Hillbilly's sound design is okay, but his animations are very bad. Hillbilly is the Dead by Daylight Bubba, right? The Leatherface, the cannibal. Well, I don't know if he has any other titles, but this is the unlicensed version of Leatherface, and it shows. Although he's just not very interesting. He looks very strange, which is intentional, but his outfit is bland and basic. It's a tank top with pants. And the main problem is he's just not interesting. There's not a lot going on with this design. Even less than Trapper, but for Trapper it made sense. Billy just looks boring, and his animations are what really get to me. He is going to sprint at you across the entire map at high speeds, except he walks so lopsidedly, he looks very unstable, and like you could push him over at any point. It would be considerably easier than other killers to pallet stun and have him be knocked down on his ass, and it just doesn't have a very intimidating animation set. Him revving up the chainsaw is also very goofy, but I actually quite like the animation for him revving up the chainsaw, as it's very over-exaggerated and visually interesting. It's just his walk and run cycles are so opposite of what they should be. They're not bad by any means, they're not poorly animated, they just don't fit with what the killer is supposed to be. this killer is supposed to be very fast and very maneuverable, I guess to an extent, but his animations show that of a very, very clumsy, unstable person, which is just very disappointing because it doesn't fit with him at all. So I think he's honestly pretty weak, as he is a very boring outfit and design, and his animations, while good, don't fit him whatsoever, at least to me. There is another character that also has a very strange walk cycle that doesn't look very imposing or intimidating. It's Wraith, and I think Wraith is high tier. So Wraith is your original stealth killer. He stalks you and he goes invisible with his wailing bell. His run animation is very top heavy, and his stance here is very, very strange. He has animations that speak similar to Billy, of them just being strange and instead of imposing, more weird and funky. But it works really well in Wraith's favor, as he is a very creepy killer. He's not meant to be a powerhouse who can go across the map. He's not meant to be a loud and rambunctious killer that everybody knows where he is at all times. He is a stalking stealth killer. Him standing in a very strange way, and his run cycle and his animations for chasing you being funky and weird add more creepiness to him. They are a little bit more disturbing than if he was just walking normally. He is a very weird guy, though he runs at you very strangely, and that fits much more with Wraith than it did with Billy. That's why I think it works much better on Wraith. Plus, his outfit design is actually quite interesting. He has this cool cloak, he's got the bandages, and his mask is like some sort of like wooden tree husk that he got. It's more visually interesting. It shows that he is probably more of a forest dweller who eats tree bark, and I think that's cool. He has a very dead face as well, even though it is just the mask. It's hard to notice if it is the mask. His head, I don't even know if it's a mask or if it's him. Where does he begin and where does his outfit stop, right? Which I think is also very interesting. He has blank, gazing eyes that are actually quite visible in game. That's a good way to spot him if he's far away. Though most of the time he'll be invisible, but you can still see him shimmering. While he's invisible, he still makes noise, and his sound design is very good. He has this heavy and unnatural breathing. It sounds indescribable, like it sounds like nothing that's real. You can hear very raspy noises coming out of him, very animalistic growls as he's heavily breathing, as he's supposed to be stealthing near you and completely invisible when he's standing still. And that is a very creepy sound for a very creepy killer. And that's very well designed. So, him being in high A tier is very good. I think that's very fitting for him. Next up, we will talk about the Nurse. Nurse, I think, is actually quite bland. Nurse has a very generic nurse outfit. The only thing that's added is her torn up skirt and a bag over her head, which does help. Her sound design is very good, and so is her animation set. She floats around like a dead body, limp and uncaring. She also blinks, and she teleports, that's her thing. She floats around very ethereal and very unnatural, because, you know, people don't float. She also doesn't really have much going on, as she is completely limp, which adds very creepy feeling to her, much like the Wraith, who is also a creepy killer. Nurse has a great animation set and good sound design. It's just her outfit is so bland. It's just a nurse outfit with a bag on her head. And while it works in her favor, she doesn't have a bad costume, it's just a boring costume. Her animations and her sound design is very good. I think we put her a little too low, actually. I think I'm going to bump her up because I really like the way she's animated. She is very strange and weird, and her sound design is very good. Yeah, it's just her costume is a bit bland, and that's fine, I guess. I just like the way she's animated. Next up is Huntress, and this one's going to be a hard one because people adore the Huntress. People love Huntress a lot, and they cosplay her so much, but I'm honestly going to have to put her where I originally put Nurse. Maybe I can convince myself to put her higher. We'll see. She's in the low tier. Her mask is interesting. I enjoy that part of her, and it goes inside of the hunters don't want to look like hunters. They don't want to scare their prey immediately. They would rather look more friendly so they can fool their prey for as long as possible. So the cute bunny mask, or I guess in this case the weird and creepy bunny mask, is quite fitting actually. The veil and headdress is also for a similar reason, but that's more appealing to people. They're like, oh, well, you know, veils are pretty, right? The weakness of Huntress is her sound design is weird outside of her Huntress's lullaby, which is a unique way to give her a very large terror radius without actually giving her a real terror radius. Mostly to prevent perks that interact with your terror radius from functioning very well on her, such as Infectious Fright would be extremely strong on Huntress, but her real terror radius is only like 6 or 8 meters. However, her lullaby is, I believe, like maybe 36, if not up to like 40 something. I don't know. It's very, very large. Huntress's lullaby is more of a gameplay mechanic, though, but I do like it. Her outfit, however, is very basic. She's just wearing pants and a sweater with one strap over the shoulder and some leather bits that are in the sweater. I don't really know what to call that, but Huntress doesn't make sense for what she is. She looks like a traditional housewife, and she is actually, in fact, very untraditional as she throws hatchets at things and keeps children locked in her basement. Her outfit is honestly just generally bland, and it doesn't look like there's any place she can comfortably store 5 of her throwing hatchets, which is strange. She has belts, sure, but they don't have holders for the hatchets. They don't have any real place for them to go. They would fall out, they would be loose. I think if we gave her some straps that specifically were made to hold her throwing hatchets, that would make more sense. Give her more of a harness that actually looks like it does something, because on the side here, this harness just looks like suspenders. It looks like it's just there for fun. It doesn't look like it does actually anything. Give her a actual belt that looks like it holds her hatchets, and the design becomes a little bit better. Give her an outfit that more fits with her brutal nature of being a hunter. That would also be good. Give her something like a pelt, like an animal pelt on her shoulder, like from a bear, to show that, yeah, she kills bears, so she's really strong and cool and awesome. Something like that would also help the design quite a lot from this very basic design. Basically, I just want them to add more details to give us more of a hint on who she is, rather than this strange outfit that doesn't tell us anything about her. Perhaps the traditional housewife outfit is to go alongside with what I said about the mask of appearing like something you're not. However, in this context, it would simply just affect her negatively in her actual endeavors of hunting, because she doesn't have a place to keep everything. And hunters love to brag, so the pelt would be very good. These shoulders look very empty. Give her like a pauldron of a bear pelt. Huntress, however, has some of the best skins in the game, but we're not talking about that, so that is unfortunate. And for these reasons, I honestly put Huntress at low tier. Clown is, I have to put it at A tier, because I really, really hate looking at Clown. He is ugly, he is gross, he is just grotesque in general, and he's just very unpleasant to look at. You don't want to be around him. But that was completely intentional, and that was honestly the reason that he looks like this. That was their design goal for this clown. Their goal was to make him very uncharismatic, very ugly, very just disgusting, very gross, and they succeeded very well. I literally cannot bring myself to play clown because he's like gross. I hate how his fingernails look in the first-person model. Ugh, it's disgusting. I'm sure they could go even further with that design and give him more holes in his outfit and his shoes and just make it even more unpleasant to look at, but I think that would be going too far. So him at A tier is, you know, it's there. Next, let's talk about the Doctor. Doctor is a very good design. I'm going to order these, actually. Or I don't know how much I want to order them, but Doctor is a very good design. While his outfit is sort of basic, it's just a doctor's coat, it's not as basic as Nurse's, as the sleeves are ripped off. But they don't look ripped off, they look frayed off, like burned off, with these black scorch marks around it. His outfit doesn't look bloody, it looks scorched, and that works with his electricity, which would do that to his outfit. More about him, his arms are like ripped open and veins are everywhere, and there's this like orange kind of glowing part, and that goes with his electricity, as well as he's constantly throwing out volts of electricity and is being electrocuted, and it's a very, very electrical based killer. So he's very affected by that because he didn't really make bracers or anything. His headpiece is, however, the most interesting thing about him. Since he is a doctor, he is a very, very strange and insane looking headpiece. That goes with his very strange and insane personality. He is the insane killer. He has the little things on his head, the I don't know, the probes maybe, that looks like it would do something with neurology. And that goes on his head, and that also looks like it has some sort of electrical features to it. He then has these eye things that keep his eyes open that an eye doctor would put on you when they're doing something to your eyes. Something scaring, I imagine. And then he has this thing to keep his mouth open so that the dentist can look at your teeth. He has 3 different medical professions attached to one helmet that I don't think he's qualified to practice any of them, to be completely honest with you. He is based off of the real life, I believe it was Japanese, maybe? Electroshock therapy, that the doctor used electroshock therapy to get people to stop playing video games. So that is what he's based off of for his real life counterpart. So this headpiece right here is very interesting because it has the 3 different doctor things. He is the doctor. He also very clearly put this on himself, right? The idea is he is so fucking insane, he made this contraption and put it on himself. And he does not look comfortable, and I don't know why he would ever do that to himself. But that's the implication. He chose to wear that, which makes him look incredibly fucking insane, and that plays super, super well. His sound design is very good when he inflicts madness upon the survivors. The static and the screaming and all of the like just paranoia that it can cause for, well, mostly newer players. But the atmosphere that he brings into A Match of Dead by Daylight is very, very well done. His sound design is very strong, and a good part of him. His animations, however, are sort of stiff. His run cycle is good. It has a very crazed look to it. He is menacing when he runs towards you. He leans in and hunches over because it makes him closer to you. He wants to get to you as quickly as possible and start fucking electrocuting you. And that makes him very imposing I would not want to have to ever deal with this guy, like, in real life. That would be an utter nightmare. So, apart from his animations looking stiff, the silhouettes and a general design they went for is quite good. If his animations were more fluid and just generally better, and his outfit had a little more detail, he would easily be an S tier killer. However, I think I'm just going to have to keep him an A tier, but he is a very strong design. Next up, we should talk about the Hag. Hag is down here with Billy, to be honest. I really don't know which is better between them, but the Hag has very weird things going on about her. Her model is just outdated and unfocused. It's hard to tell if she is either covered in mud because she's from a swamp and that's kind of her thing, or this is all rot on her body. It's hard to tell if she's skin and bones or if she's just bones. I don't fully understand what's going on with her outfit or why she's even has any clothes in general, why she isn't just completely rotted. I guess it would be kind of hard to model Hag's pussy. But her in-game model is very weird and low resolution. It doesn't look great. She has also some very bad skins because her model isn't very good. She has a few good ones, but that's not what we're talking about. That does not influence anything. Her sound design is quite good. She has this very, I don't want to say bubbly, but like very wet, heavy breathing, and it's very gross. It feels like she's constantly gargling up blood and mucus and mud through her mouth, which she's only breathes through her mouth, which is gross. Why would you do that? She is a cannibal, so her sharp teeth are going to eventually rip your throat out. She has a very large claw hand for her weapon and a very weak little baby hand for her normal hand, right? She has a very interesting silhouette. I like it. I like her animation cycle too. She looks very imbalanced and unstable, like Billy, but in her case it makes sense because she is either a very rotted corpse with very little mass on her, except for her large arm, which she leans into because her arm is weighing her down, or she's bones, right? And she's mostly bones and mud and rot, which would also not give her very much mass and have her leaning on this very large and strong arm that she has, that I assume the entity buffed her up on that one so she can actually kill survivors. Her story is very good. I like her lore a lot. It's just her model is very not textured. It has a lack of focus on, I don't really know if these white parts are bone or if it's skin that's at its end, end of its life, like very dry skin. I don't know if the dark spots are mud or if it's rot. I don't know why she has hair still, which would, if she was all bones, which would, some parts of me are led to believe that she's bone. She has no nose. Her jaw looks like a skull. Her rib cage is visible. It's very hard to tell what she is. And that's honestly the only thing holding her back, because everything else about her is pretty good. It's just unfortunate that her model is so bad. It's definitely the weakest model in the entire game, but I guess she's better than Billy because of all the other good things about her. Maybe even at the very end of this tier. I'll have to decide later, though. We'll keep her here now. We'll keep her here for now. Alright, let's talk about Legion. Legion is a very hard one to talk about because there's 4 of them, and I said I wasn't going to talk about skins you can buy in the shop, but Legion's a little different. Half of Legion is actually only available by purchasing it in the store, which is unfortunate. So I'll make an exception for Legion, though I'm going to be putting Legion actually quite low. Legion is another very popular killer that a lot of people like to cosplay, much like the Hunters, which is funny that they're on the same tier. Legion's base design is very bland. It's a guy in a hoodie, in pants, in shoes. And, I mean, that's intentional. Legion is just supposed to be teenagers, but the way that he plays in game doesn't really speak to how he is in the design. Legion has this very purge-like mask that doesn't really fit with him, and his outfit doesn't really fit with him either. Legion's power is running very fast. No, he's not really that fast. So it doesn't make sense why he's not in either a tracksuit or maybe a varsity jacket to show his more athletic side. It's just a basic gray jacket with a bullet belt for some reason, even though he doesn't really have any use of a gun or any reason to have that. I don't really know why that's there. I guess he likes guns, but he doesn't have one. His pants are very basic, his jacket's very basic, and his mask doesn't really make sense, because if you're just going to be sprinting around all day, the last thing you want is a mask with no fucking airflow. How are you going to breathe in that? Maybe that's why you're always heavily breathing when you've been running for 0.01 seconds. You're gonna give yourself like CO2 poisoning in there. Like, I don't know what you're doing. There's no airflow. That is a hard mask. Like, that is, you're gonna die. Susie is the exact same. Here's an unmasked render, which you can't use in game. This isn't Susie, this is Julie. Julie is the exact same, so that is also very boring and disappointing on why they would have the same exact outfit, down to the bullet belt as well. I really, really, genuinely do not understand that at all, and that was quite lazy of them. Susie is the most popular one, and I think her outfit is probably the best one. It has her high school jacket. It has this mask that is very stitched up with this metal wire, which is a reference to her character having braces. This mask is also very bad for 1, visibility, and 2, airflow, so running would suck. But she has much more of a high schooler's appearance with the Converse, with the skirt, with the long school jacket. She minus the blood and tears and mask, she looks like people I've seen in high school countless times. So this is actually quite fitting. Her weapon being a roller with her name on it, a smiley face, being sharpened and jagged is also much more interesting than just the basic hunting knife that the other two we've talked about have. Susie is by far the best design and the only thing keeping them out of bottom tier. However, there's also one more. There's Joey, which has a bit more airflow with the mask, which is good, so him running makes sense, but he looks even more like a Purge character, which to me is disappointing because they're meant to be high schoolers. They're not meant to be from the Purge. His outfit is gloriously edgy, and he uses a karambit for his knife, which is honestly overcompensating, but quite cool actually. This character in Legion speaks to me as the one who is overcompensating the most with his very, very edgy outfit and his mask, which is the most different, and because it's just cloth with a design, but I think it's probably the best one out of the four because you can actually, breathe and see out of it. And his karambit being the most exquisite knife of the group. He's the one overcompensating the most. However, he's much better than the default two. Although he still doesn't really make sense with what he does. The Legion just kind of runs. That's his power. He runs. This guy doesn't look very athletic to me. He looks more like he's going to sneak around in a back alley and shank you. Or like he's going to post TikToks about how cool he is. So, Legion's not very interesting to me. Yeah, let's talk about let's get into the licensed, because these are a bit difficult to talk about. We're going to be talking about them mostly in the context of Dead by Daylight. Demogorgon is, I think, low as well. Demogorgon is a big, naked, lanky guy with interesting monster face. Though the monster face doesn't really play too much into it. It's just kind of a thing that he has. I wish his design was more detailed instead of it just being kind of like a naked guy. But he is a monster. He has a monster face, he has a creepy, lanky body, and he has a pretty good animation cycle. His sound design is the honestly only thing keeping him out of bottom tier. Because in the context of Dead by Daylight, this is a very bland and basic killer. Though in Stranger Things he was also pretty basic. Outside of the meat flower that is his face. That's honestly the only thing that's interesting about him. And Demogorgon was in like 2 episodes of Stranger Things, so I think they understood too that he was cool to see once, okay the second time, and then redundant every other time. So Demogorgon's sound design is the only reason I put him up here, and he has very good sound design that I like. And then we can talk about Ghostface. Ghostface actually got a Dead by Daylight redesign, and I quite like it. I think it is an A-tier design, not as good as this team, but Ghostface here is quite cool. He is a stealth killer, and he wants to sneak around, and he can actually crouch and move at a very reasonable speed while crouched. His outfit has a lot of moving parts to it. These ribbons, or tendrils as people like to call it, are great for the silhouette. He has like his headdress here, his mask, his undersuit, these shoulder pads, the trench coat, and all of these straps and belts, and like this outfit looks like a lot of moving pieces that probably help him crouch around. I don't know. Here's a closer look. All of these are very methodically put on, and he has to very methodically put on this getup, which really works for him because he is a serial killer, and serial killers are typically very planned out, very methodical, very cunning, and his outfit being very planned out and methodical really reflects that, and I think that's really good. Although in the movies he wears a much more basic Halloween costume, which works very well in the movies of Ghostface, because he's here, spoiler alert, it's just kind of teenagers who decide to be killers. And yeah, this is kind of how you do that, unlike Legion. Smile. This is just a guy who got a Halloween costume and decided to start killing his classmates that he didn't like pretty much. This works in the context of the movie, and is quite a fun skin in the actual base Dead by Daylight. Or not, in the base. You have to buy it though. Anyway, his base outfit here shows a much more mature and methodical Ghostface, because this guy is like 20 something. He's a news reporter who kills his victims and then writes stories based off of that. It's very fitting, and his outfit change is quite good. His sound design is also very fun to listen to with the reveal stinger, and his animations are quite fun. He has a very goofy run cycle towards you, and it really plays with how Ghostface has always had a very goofy, stupid killer run. Because in the movies, Ghostface is a shitty killer. He gets, like, people throw shit at him all the time, and he crumples over, and he just has to keep getting up, because he's honestly just a guy in a Halloween costume. So I'm glad they kept that flair of his movement in there, while still giving him more of an intimidating presence. That's a very strong design to me. Let's get to Bubba. Bubba is pretty good in this game, although, yeah, no, he's okay. He's a mid-tier. Bubba is the better version of Hillbilly. He has a chainsaw, and he's very tall, and he's a power stance, and he walks at you in a way that is very sturdy. He has a very sturdy and powerful animation set for his movement, unlike Billy, who will literally trip over himself and probably break his neck or something. Bubba here is much more intimidating and threatening. He is loud and obnoxious, but in a much better way than Billy is, who just kind of screams. And maybe it's because Bubba is iconic to horror, but the way Bubba sounds is much more interesting. His mask is also much creepier than the Hillbilly's, like, melted fused face or whatever. And he actually has a mechanic in game where if you kill enough of the survivor, you can get a face, a leather face that matches with them, which is such a good detail that they added. Very, very gross. Bubba, by his normal outfit, is also funny in a way that he has this very professional looking outfit with a little tie, the slacks, and then this yellow, bright yellow and bloody apron, which clashes very much, and the professional outfit clashes very much with his fucked up leather face and his chainsaw that he's going to kill you with. But, you know, Behavior didn't design this outfit, the movie people did. Though, Bubba's animation and sound design is very strong, his outfit is much more interesting to look at, and the mechanical where you steal the survivors' faces is funny. So, I think he's pretty good mid-tier. Let's talk about a licensed killer that sucks. Everybody hates Freddy. I think Freddy sucks. The stupid render. The design they chose for Freddy is the reboot design, which is very ugly, very he kind of looks weird and weak and not as intimidating and devilish as the original Freddy. The original Freddy was burned and had this red musculature showing, and he looked like a demon. He looked very devilish and creepy and scary. This guy just looks like he's rotting. This guy looks like a zombie. He doesn't look burned. He looks like he's been buried alive, and he's a zombie rising from the grave, which doesn't really work with what he is. He's also canonically a pedophile in the reboot, so I don't like that. His sound design, though, is good in the game, although most of that is acquainted to the original Freddy sound design and all of that from his original appearance in the movies. The reboot just kind of updated them, and Dead by Daylight just took the reboots, so his animations are also quite weak. Freddy is the shortest killer in the game. He's not very scary, he's not very intimidating, he just looks like a dude who is rotting. You could easily fuck this guy up. You just probably splashed water would hurt him, honestly. Or like splash like salt water in his open wound, he'd probably like be put down, honestly. See, this Freddy design is extremely weak in the movie and is not translated well into Dead by Daylight. He's also just not intimidating at all. He's very weak looking, as he's shorter than even the Legion. Let's move right along to Pig, who I believe is probably a low mid tier. We'll push her back later. Sort that real quick. Pig is this is a GIF, I did not know that. That's gonna be distracting. Pig is a licensed killer from Saw, who has just the outfit from Saw. I believe the pig mask is probably her most notable feature, because she's the pig. Her hidden blade is quite cool, and the red cloak is also visually interesting. This GIF is very distracting, by the way. Her pants are literally just jeans, and her shoes look like laceless Skechers, which is strange to me. They don't really look like combat boots that she should have had that go like outside of the jeans, which is interesting. Some concept art for her. This is a skin that she has in-game, which doesn't look as good as the concept art, and just looks much better than her base design. Her pants make more sense. They're cargo pants, so she can, I guess, hold more fucked up cetacean needles or whatever, and it just fits more with the general aesthetic. The combat boots make much more sense. The hidden blade is still there and looks just as cool, and this outfit is much more interesting visually. The detached sleeves is just better to look at, and the pig mask with the very done up and elegant looking hair is quite funny. I actually like how those two aesthetics clash. Very nice and neat hair with this rotting, bloody pig mask. I don't actually know if it's rot. I don't think it's real. But that's the idea. But this is what the skin turned into in game, which is very in the middle. The pants and the boots look very good. I wish the outfit was much brighter, but the pig mask is actually very disappointing. See, in here, the hair is quite raggedy and weird, and here it's quite elegant. Both of those work very well, but once you hit it in the middle, it looks really distractingly bad to me. If it was gross and natty, it would be fine. Or if it was well kept and rushed and just pretty, that would also work for me because it clashes with the pig mask, and that's a good design, honestly. Things that clash on purpose are typically much more interesting than designs that are in the middle. But I just realized we've been talking about a skin for most of the pig. And that's the thing about Pig. Her base design is very basic. So just kind of put her in a low mid tier because her animations are nice. And her sound design is also quite good. So she's probably at the very bottom of mid tier because her design, her base design is interesting enough. However, it's not very much to write home about. Next up, let's talk about a killer I dislike a lot of the Twins. Twins is probably... yeah. The Twins are a relatively new killer, and I think they're really poorly designed. Gameplay-wise, especially. Twins in this art looks better. It has a better outfit and better hat, better colors, but this isn't what we got in game or in the renders. She looks very dull and washed out in game. Instead of more interesting colors and a more interesting vest, we just got this, which is very basic. I believe she's from a very old time. She's one of the older killers, and she was impoverished. So she's a hoarder, which is the little strap with a kettle and all the hay and stuff on her back, and this water skin or vase here. She's a hoarder. However, that's not very communicated in this skin. It would be much better if there were straps here, maybe stuff on her arms, have her have straps where she can hold things on her arms, put some stuff on her legs, maybe a very big backpack with a bunch of things sticking out. Maybe a belt with a bunch of stuff on it. Like, give her a lot of little trinkets, a lot of little knickknacks and novelties on her to more insinuate that she is a hoarder. Or also give her better colors. This design isn't very strong either by any means, but this one is particularly weaker. Give her more stuff that communicates that she's a hoarder. More details on her would be much, much better. Victor is literally just a naked baby with a fucked up face. That's really about it. You can't call him a baby because if you kick a baby in a video game, the ESRB rating's gonna have to go up, so they don't let you call him that. That is the only reason that is, I imagine. Other than that, the Twins is very basic, very bland, very boring and ugly design. That's about it. I like her walk cycle. She's very bouncy walk cycle where all the stuff on her back like pops up a bit and it's very clanky. There's a lot of noise with her satchel here, but I think it should have been much more prominent in her design and have more stuff on the front as well. It would have been very, very interesting to me. So, Twins, I dislike the Twins a lot. They're a lot of missed potential there, which is disappointing. Let us talk about the Blight, also a very, very new killer. However, this one is quite good. More than Clown. The Blight is, I believe, also very much so from the past. He's a doctor, but unlike the Doctor, he comes from more of an alchemy aesthetic. He's an alchemist. I believe he's also Scottish, which doesn't really mean much, but he's got an outfit and a little walking cane that makes me think of like 1800s kind of like Scrooge for the Christmas thing, then the ghost of Christmas Past and all that makes me think of that, which is very interesting. I like that a lot. And his design has a lot of this glowing bladed serum, and he's got this gaping maw, which is quite interesting. I like the glowing jaw that is there. He is a monster, quite like Demogorgon was a monster, but this is much more humanoid, like much more mutant of a monster. His upper outfit is interesting, but it gets kind of boring around the legs and the shoes and all that, as is a trope for this game's OCs. His coat is very old, and that one talks about, or insinuates his past with the cane as well. I think it would have been more interesting if we had more of the needles visible on the belt or on the legs, have some vials of the blighted serum on his belt, and have maybe these straps on his sleeve could be holders for more serum. Have alchemy bottles on him, and have he has a satchel on him. You have some. I guess nothing needs to be in the satchel. That'd be quite hard to animate. But maybe have like a book on him as well, or have a book in the satchel and have the satchel be open. Have like an alchemy book with him to talk more about him as a scientist and an intellect. That would add much more detail to this design, and if they had that, it would easily be an S tier. But half of this outfit is good, the other half is bland. There's details that they could have added, but they didn't. However, his general aesthetic is very pleasing. His serum and his gaping maw is quite fun to look at. His animations are very, very fun. His sound design is very, very good. I like the way he screams. I like the way he's constantly like dripping and oozing and snarling, and I like his chase music quite a lot. I just wish there was more detailing on his design here, because he would be an S tier. Let's talk about another killer that could have been an S tier. Spirit. Spirit has the aesthetic of the Ring, or maybe the Grudge. No, definitely the Ring. Maybe the Grudge. I always get the Grudge, Ring, and Exorcist very, very confused. But her design is very good. I like her hair quite a lot. That is a very prominent feature of her. She has this constantly flowing black hair that is like an abyss that you want to touch, but you don't want to. She has a very, very cool shattered katana that is held together by, I can only imagine to be ethereal magic, and her power is going to the ethereal realm, or a mirrored version of the world. It's not actually mirrored, but that's kind of a thing with her. She has a bunch of glass shards in her, which talk about, or they insinuate the detailing of her, because there's a mirror in her back, so I do forget where it falls into place, but there is a shattered mirror at some point in her story, and her DLC pack is the Shattered Bloodline, and that is very, very good detailing. I wish they went a little more on the glass shards sticking out of her. The katana looks like glass shards of the steel, but put back together. The cuts in her are very, very brutal and grotesque, and it gives her very floaty limbs, which is very, very fun to look at. Her sound design is also very good. The noise it makes when she's phasing, her constant like glass shattering movement whenever she moves, as if her very bones are made from shattered shards of glass that shape and reform and break with every movement, is very fun to listen to and very enjoyable. The only thing that is unfortunate about her design is how basic her outfit is, or the lack of her outfit. She is practically naked, which I assume they did to show off more of the cuts in her and more of the glass. However, I feel like they should have gone even more into the glass and the cuts and the damage that she has if they were not going to give her a real outfit. Her bandage wraps are very, very disappointing, and her base skin has so much that it could have had. This skin here is what her base should have been. It has tears where you want those floating limbs. It should have had glass cutting out from the shoulders and parts of the arm as well, and the hair should have been like default. But if she had a torn up like kimono on in her base design, she would easily be an S tier. If we had this on the spirit that we have, to where glass was sticking out of it, and the holes and cuts in the robes showed the cuts in her arm, that would be very good. And if she had her very, very iconic floaty, ethereal demon evil hair, it would be an S tier design. But unfortunately, that's not what we have. We have the design of the spirit with very, very basic bandage wraps for her outfit. So she could have been an S tier very, very easily. Next, let's talk about one that's going to be short and weird. Myers. Myers is really, really bad, but only in the context of Dead by Daylight. He's imposing, he's intimidating, he's creepy, and he is scary. That's really, really good. However, his outfit is literally just a guy in a mechanic jumpsuit and a mask. If they wanted to have a very creepy stalker character, they made the Wraith. They redesigned Ghostface. They did all of that. However, Myers, though in his movies and in horror as a genre, has one of the most iconic and a very strong design. But that's honestly only because of how iconic he is. I would say Myers should be a mid-tier design, but in the context of Dead by Daylight, it's very bland, it's very basic. So this is a very hard one to rank, because I want to say this is a really good design, because it kind of is. He looks like a regular person just with a mask, which helps with just being afraid of Myers in the movies, at least. That this is a very demented and insane person, because that's just how he is. And maybe that's not really super obvious. His design is very basic. It's just, in the context of Dead by Daylight especially, it's very basic. So maybe C tier, actually, I guess. I don't know. These are kind of bad and missed potential. These are kind of like, I guess we'll put him here. Sure, why not? Alright, it seems we're entering the home stretch here, so let's talk about Deathslinger. Deathslinger is, I want to say he's very strong in the mid tier. Yeah, if not low A tier, I don't know actually. Actually quite like Deathslinger. I think I'll put him up here. Actually do quite like Deathslinger. Deathslinger is generally a fairly basic cowboy. He does have his very typical cowboy stuff, his boots, his cowboy boots with the spurs. He's got a lot of straps and harnesses on his pants, which add more detail to that, which is actually very above and beyond for Dead by Daylight to do. And his outfit is very cowboy-like, although it's this dark brown leather and more menacing long coat. And when you're watching a spaghetti western, someone with an outfit like this is typically your antagonist, your evil cowboy, and that's exactly what Deathslinger needed to be. He's a very cheesy, evil spaghetti western cowboy character, and that works quite well with him in general. His sound design is great. His music is very, very fun to listen to. It's very Stinger-like in how it is, because it's western. His hair was a great choice for the long, cold white hair with his very cold white eyes glowing as well. His outfit contrasts that very much. his outfit contrasts that very much with a very dark and muted color scheme. He's a very muted character all in all, except for this little hint of a grungy orange, which fits with cowboys. They like that. It's a very, very basic, but a very, very well done character. He's cliche, but by design. And their horror spin on it is actually quite good with his very strange face that makes him look a little more soulless, which works. He's actually quite good. Alright, let's talk about the Trickster. I love the Trickster. Trickster, he is a very, very flashy, very, very flamboyant person, and his outfit describes it very, very well. The outfit in general is very good. The bright yellow with the diamond pattern on his coat, the purple pants, the bright purple pink pants, the yellow stripes going down is also very interesting to look at. His necklaces and his belts and all of the chains that he has on him. His boots are very cool looking as well, if not a bit basic compared to the rest of them, but they do work very well. They do blend it together. His earrings and his jewelry, his eyeliner and his very well done eyebrows and very, very nice haircut. He looks very exaggerated, very flamboyant, and very, very stylish, which is exactly what he is supposed to be. He's also the horny bait for a lot of people, because, you know, he's quite the attractive young lad. So, like, people who used to get hot and bothered about Ghostface and Myers are getting very hot and bothered for Trickster now, and it fits very well. His eyes are quite mysterious, but very pretty. He, in general, is a very sharp and angular design knife. Like, look at that jawline, look at those eyes. Like, he's very sharp and angular in a lot of spots, which, you know, knives are sharp and angular. He is also very, very expressive in his sound design. He's constantly laughing to himself and even saying very short phrases, which is very uncommon for Dead by Daylight. And that's very, very fun to listen to. Also, the sounds of his knives are very fun. His chase music is very good, and his animations give more of a feral look to him with his very weird but fitting run cycle. Trickster might not be everybody's favorite, and he might be a bottom 3 strength-wise killer, but his design is very flashy and very, very stylish, and that is perfect for who he is. Moving on, let's talk about the Plague. Plague, believe it or not, also known as Steer. I really, really like how the Plague looks. She is a very, very regal and elegant design, as she was a high priestess of Babylon cult, I believe. I don't know the very fine details of it, but that's pretty much what she is. She is very, very fancy and very regal. The headdress especially is very pretty and very fancy. Her outfit is of clean whites and golds that have been dirtied and stained, but still maintain quite cleanliness around most of the areas. And that could just be with shading, who knows. Plague, yeah, it's very dark here, but that's not really how it looks in game. Plague is very, very interesting, as she is wearing this very nice and fancy outfit, but her body is this sick and vile rot. So those two clash very well together, and it looks very interesting. Half of her face has this very soft and smooth, like supple skin, and the other half is this sickly, vile rot that has come from her plague. And that's a really interesting design. I love how fancy she is, especially with these little, like, long, like, metal finger things that people wear. The lantern, the incense lantern, as her weapon to that's in her lore to mask the rotting smell of her body, is also very good that she kept it. The outfit in general is just very, very good. Her texturing of the plague infecting her is also very, very nice. And her sound design with all of her chanting and speaking and whispering of some fucked up bullshit when you get corrupt purge and all that is very, very good. I don't know what the whispering is, but I really like it. She is a very, very tall killer who walks in a very straight, proper posture fashion, and that is very imposing. Her height and posture have such a high up attitude to her, like she is above everything, right? Because, wow, she towers above everything. And she feels very, very, like, she feels like she is in a position of power with how she presents herself and walks around despite her being literally rotting. She's, you know, for lack of a better word, she is a girl boss. She's very, very cool. She's very, very powerful. And her design is very, very good. She is easily an S tier killer, design-wise. Next up is the Executioner, which is also an S tier for me, but it's hard to put a licensed character in S tier because he's Silent Hill. But as somebody who's, I'm not a Silent Hill player. I'm not like a big fan, so I don't have like bias from that, because while I love the Silent Hill property, I've actually never played the games or even seen a playthrough. I just like the aesthetics of it, and Pyramid Head is fucking crazy. He is so like creepy. He's scary. He's very threatening and brutal. His walk animation is so enjoyable to look at because it's so creepy and inhuman, and it's very good. The way he leans and drags this giant knife behind him is so enjoyable. His sound design is beautiful. Like when you're on the menu and there's all the little I don't know what those are, but I love how that sounds. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm so sorry, but you need to like load up Pyramid Head and just listen for a while and you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about. Pyramid Head is so well designed sound-wise, and while his outfit is very general Executioner's outfit, I think it still works with him because the main draw is his Pyramid Head. I like how he looks. His outfit might be basic, but it's like what I said about the Trapper. It is iconic, it is simple, but it is memorable. And then the giant steel pyramid head on his head is what you're really remembering him for, as well as his giant chef's knife, is what they call the great knife, instead of a great sword. It is just an oversized giant knife that is reversed because his arm is like backwards, which is also very interesting and creepy to look at. Pyramid Head is a very powerful and intimidating killer that just has a very good amount of animation work done to him and a very good amount of sound design work done to him. And yeah, the design is by the people who made Silent Hill, but the design's very good, and what Dead by Daylight did with it is very good as well, and he fits into the game much better than I thought he would, as he is a very good design. And, you know, this one's going to be very biased because I just like the Oni, and I like the aesthetics of the Oni quite a lot, but, you know, Oni's S tier. I feel like nobody's really going to disagree with Oni being an S tier because he just looks so fucking cool. He is also a very sturdy and imposing character. He's like 8 feet tall and looks like he weighs 400 pounds of pure muscle. He is somebody who can rip you in half with his bare hands, and he walks around with this very cool looking ceremonious samurai armor and his Oni mask. He has a kana bow, which is the large stick, and the katana that he has. He is very cool and very imposing. You can just blood figure out the blood, or all the red going around him, all the red aura, and the eyes lighting up on both the shoulder pads and his mask. He's very cool, and I'm a very big fan of how his hair has the flowing effect, much like his sister, the Spirit. I think that was a very good way to tie it in. Like his Spirit has black hair, he has pure white hair, which contrasts quite well with his red mask. and otherwise sort of metal, wooden tones of the armor. He's very, very cool looking, and I just like this design a lot. I like the way he's posed most of the time. His animations when he walks around with his sword like this is very, very confident. He's very, very intimidating in that way, because, you know, he's a bit of a narcissist. He thinks he's like the hottest shit ever. He's like the realest samurai ever, or whatever. So him walking around with such confidence is very cool. And then when he enters the Blood Fury, his wrath overtaking him and him entering this more feral and unhinged state is also quite well designed. And his sounds are very, very fun to listen to. His music is very, very good. The way he screams and you can hear him stomping across the entire map adds such a good amount of atmosphere and intimacy into the match, because, you know, yeah, it's fucking Oni. He's a very powerful killer. He's very strongly designed. He just, oh, he's such a good design. He's so cool. Okay. So, hold on. There we go. So this is my Dead by Daylight art design killer tier list. This might change slightly as time progresses, but I honestly kind of doubt it. Maybe the order of like A tier perhaps could change. Maybe like even right now I like Doctor a little more than Wraith. I kind of like you more than Wraith too. Like Blade. No, actually I don't know. Yeah, this looks right. But yeah, the ordering might vary slightly from week to week or whatever, but this is the general idea of my opinions on the art design. Of course, art is purely subjective, and if you feel like I talked too short about one of your favorite killers design-wise, then, I mean, of course, art is subjective. Feel free to share your opinion, and I'd love to read it, as long as it's, you know, constructive and not all caps saying that I'm a fucking idiot for not noticing something like, you know, don't do that. Because, you know, I think it'll be funny, but I'm not gonna put much thought into your response if you do it like that. But I know a lot of you who watch these character design videos, and especially if you made it this far into this one, care a lot about character design, and a lot of you are very, very smart, smarter than me, so I'd love to hear some opinions if anybody has any on these killers. But, you know, other than that, Dead by Daylight is a very interesting game. If you don't play it, I recommend looking into it. It's very fun. I love it a lot. And there's some really good designs, and some like bad ones, but that's besides the point. So, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you around.
「確かめて